Wait, Jacob. Let me see. Okay, go live. There we go.
Go live.
All right, I think we should be live. I mean, it's gonna be with a little bit of delay, I'm assuming, as usually live things are, but we should be live. Hi, everybody. Hi,
Hey,
Jacob.
everybody.
So before we're gonna start, I'm gonna do a quick intro. I mean, I'm always fuck the intros up, but it's just a
All right.
tradition of 3 years
Well,
these days already.
everybody always does, right? I
It
don't hear
is
about that, by the
true.
way. I fuck up my own intro.
I
So,
know, I know. Intros are a fucking fuckable thing. That's what I can say.
oh my
So
God, are we over 50% already? You
we should
told me
we
I
should
had 50% fuck limit.
so guys, before me and Jacob like go all crazy on the intros. So of course this is Citizen Odyssey, Citizen Cosmos. We live stream with Notional today, with Jacob. Hi Jacob.
Hey, man.
Man, I'm
How's it
glad to
going?
see you. I'm very glad to see you, man. I haven't
Hi.
seen you. I've heard you, but I haven't seen you in a while. So in face, since
Well,
a couple of
it's the
weekends.
cosmos, and we really we keep pretty busy. Stuff is always
Yeah,
changing, growing. The stars in the sky, they reconfigure themselves. Hell of a thing.
but it's good, right? That's good. That means there's
Oh, dude, I mean,
yeah.
at this point, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Um, Feels quite natural, you know.
Hmm.
I enjoy the hell out of it. Seems like you got your own production, really rolling as well.
Well, we are slowly like moving into development, moving into game dev, slowly building the studios, doing more infrastructure, hiring people, growing. But let's not make it about Citizen Cosmos. Come on,
Okay.
let's make it.
Why not making a little bit about Citizen Cosmos? You got the robot
One
level.
day we should. We should one day. We should one day. We should one day.
That'd be
I
cool.
promise. I promise.
All right.
but Jacob, last time we had a podcast with you. This was let me remember when we had it was
Hmm?
let me see when was this bugger? Wait. September 22, 2022. Wow, that's a good day. That's when it came out, but it was recorded before that. So it was recorded must have been now like 8 months or so. And before we like go into, because this time I'm gonna want to make it about Notional. Last time was about you, and the
Yeah, yeah.
podcast is about people. And this
I
time let's make it
knew
about Notional.
you wanted to do that. Yeah, man.
Yes, I promised, and I'm gonna keep my promise. And apart from keeping my promise, I think there is a lot to learn about Notional. And I know you are the heart of Notional and the head of Notional. But
I mean, like, dude, we have a team of I do believe 30 people. We count everybody, and I certainly
there we
do.
go, there we
Yeah,
go, and that's what I want
yeah.
to. So tell us about the team. Come on, let's talk about let's
I
jump
mean,
into
what
it.
you
I mean,
want to
let's
hear,
let's
like
talk
the
about the team.
notional story? Before you were kind of asking about like the Jacob story, right? You
I
want to hear
I
the
I, I
notional story?
well, of course, but if you want, because last time, like I remember the first server story taking off, but of course, not
Yeah.
everyone has heard it. So if you could do like
Mm-hmm.
a small recap of the notional story, not like from the Jacob
Oh
side, but from
yeah.
the
Okay.
notional side
Yeah,
of
exactly.
things.
From the notional side. So, well, one, I didn't really know what to call it, but I wanted to start an osmosis validator because I had spoken to Sonny about dexes, like as a very general concept, a few months before osmosis launched, and I was calling them. We're like, I didn't understand a thing, but very crucially, I knew that he was really enthusiastic about it, and it was sounding super cool. Um, we were the last validator to jump in, and basically, I thought, what are we gonna? I want like a playful word, like something that describes what it was, and I was like, notional, because like hard to define or unclear, right? Um, and at the time, so notional was myself and Kang and Ricardo, and we started this osmosis validator. Now, to keep this focused on notional as opposed to Jacob, right? So like we had this quite old office in Hanoi, which is actually like an old apartment. It's not really it's not like office space. We have office space now, but back then it just an apartment. And somehow I believe that we were basically the first to do at home bare metal. The cool part of this, like Kang and I ran into all kinds of problems. Um, and in this case, problems were a blessing. Like problems were a good thing because when we hit these problems, we got to solve the problems. Um, so, I mean, okay. So, and then there were three, right? Me and Kang and Ricardo. And as we began to relay, more and more chains asked us to join their validator set. So we'd also relay packets for them. I believe that was about the next 13 chains. And also, Kang, he's guy's remarkable, man. He literally built our engineering team. I don't really think that Notional would have the same shape today without him. He began to recruit his friends. And so, one thing about early Notional was that it was really very informal, right? Like, we were not terribly organized. There certainly wasn't a company in the beginning. And, we were just sort of like going, right? So we expanded to more and more chains. And at some point in here, like we began to hit relatively serious engineering problems. And each time Karen would be like, well, no, like we can fix that. We can do it. I'm like, yeah? Like, oh, yeah, we can do it. So, I mean, interestingly, this set the tone for everything that we've done since. Like, we'll validate a chain. We will learn about how it works. Now, most of the chains in Cosmos are, I usually say, 90% the same, right? Now, however, that 10% can be really quite a thing, and sometimes it's a lot more than 10%. Atmos is a pretty unique one, right? Anyhow, so all right. So then there were two, and then there were three, and then there were four, and what we ended up doing was essentially like we would validate, we would solve problems in the stack. And then we ended up like doing really well with delegations in the bear market. And then at that time, we didn't have a software engineering practice. Well, a formal one, right? That like had contracts and stuff like that. Like we were just like the validator that fixes stuff. And at some point in there, it was definitely Osmosis team, first one. Like, no. We would like more of this, so we have to figure out like a way to pay you. And so like we worked that out on our end. That meant having a company, and a whole bunch of other details that really like we had not, considered in depth. I believe our incorporation date it wasn't like too tragic, right? Like a couple of months after we spun up the first nodes, and basically just like everybody mutually agreed. Okay, so like all of the agreements that we made concerning the nodes, just schlepped that into this here Singapore company, and that's what we did. We schlepped the entire thing that we were doing into Notional Labs, PTE, I think, is the Singapore company. We also started a Vietnamese company. And somewhere in there, we also began to do work on DigChain. So basically, at around the same time, we began to work like on a contract basis with Osmo, and then Uh, well, I think it was actually dig first, Osmo second. Now that I think about it,
Do you
and
think we can try and go over all of your contributions, and I try to collect all of the projects your guys now work, and I
mm,
didn't. I failed a little bit. So help me out. Let's try to get what Notional is, because Notional is
um,
contributing a lot of. So you have dig, you have validator, you have
yeah,
engineering, you have bare metal,
yep,
you do audits for different repos and different codes, right?
yeah.
You
Well,
commit to the repos as well.
we are developing the audit practice. So we check lots of code, right?
Hmm.
And at this time, we don't formally do like, hey, you give us X dollars, we're going to audit your repository. And there's a really clear reason for that. When we compare like the work output of, by the way, here we go. Here's a big change, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to praise the hell out of informal systems. That'll be different from 6 months ago. Okay.
Yeah.
When I look at their audit work output, like we want to be there and able to, um, it's not really about, I figure that we would find most of the same items, but the difference is that informal is presenting them really well and explaining them really well. And so we're actually looking to create, what they have is what's called a document compiler, that creates this really nice formatted document that allows them to make an audit into a product. And I suppose right now I'm marketing informal, but I have no problem with that. That makes Cosmos more secure, quite frankly. Like they do a tremendous job, and so like once we have that, we'll probably begin to sell that. And currently, any auditing we do is it's funny. So it's more like informal for a formal audit right now, and we're doing informal audits. um,
Informal,
and
formal, informal, formal, but not from. Well, yeah.
well, I don't know if you know this, but the name of that company is a play on words, just like Notional.
Of course.
Okay,
I
you knew
mean,
this.
let's not go into Citizen Cosmos, right? I mean, come on. It's so no, but it's cool. But wait, because I want people to my well, not goal, right? But my target is here is to learn about Notional, who is the company, not the equity company. I mean, not the legal company, but company is
Mhm.
a project behind Notional. I
Yeah.
want people to know, because a lot of people, some people see Notional as a validator. Some people see Notional as, oh my God, Notional, the guys are always on Twitter. Somebody's like, Notional is the guy who is exposing somebody or somebody. So I want people to stop like thinking just about that, and I want people to see like what you guys do, and
Yeah.
that the work that you
No,
do
a,
is
that's a very
important.
good question. I would characterize our business as like a Cosmos oriented full stack blockchain engineering firm. And what I mean by this is that because we began as validators and we started relaying, then we started writing code, we actually ended up touching like pretty much every piece of the Cosmos stack. And um, we're finally getting more serious about Cosmwasm. For a long time, we were like we worked on Cosmwasm, but not in Cosmwasm. You get what I mean? So like
Mm-hmm.
we would maintain and update all the different Go libraries and stuff that feed into Cosmwasm. But we didn't write a lot of code in Cosmwasm, but we have actually a number of really interesting contracts, and also some concepts that are flowing out. Here's the point though. So because we do all of these things and have a relatively large team, One of the things that we have that I think really it's us and Strangelove and Informal who have this like ecosystem wide
Inclusion,
capacity.
maybe. Inclusion, maybe.
Inclusion, yes. Fewer team members, I think. Um, Interesting thing about inclusion
Mm-hmm.
is it's like it's the depth of Zucky's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
like he absolutely is a person who can advise and work at any layer of the stack, and
I know
he'll
what you
also
mean.
give you super insightful comments in a single sentence, which is
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. It's
Yeah.
quite different from me actually. I'll use 10, 20
Oh,
sentences.
yeah.
Like,
I'm the same as you,
in a
man.
single one.
As you, man. I also envy when Zaki, like, even though I don't agree with a lot of the things he says sometimes, and I write something opposite. I want to write something opposite, but I'm like, damn. But like Zaki put it into one sentence, and for me now to explain my point, I'll have to write like a whole article. I'm like, ah, fuck
Yeah.
it. I'm just gonna like next time, next time, next time. I envy people who can do that. But man,
It's extremely impressive. So,
yeah,
all right, where we're going and what
yeah,
we are
yeah.
are actually probably the same things, right? So
But
what we are.
Jacob,
Mhm.
what if you were like, where let me ask you a different one. It's the same
Oh,
question, but
yeah,
it's from a different perspective. Out of
please.
all of that today, out of all of that, like engineering slash social governance work that you guys do, what is the, maybe not the one direction, but what is the one direction that you guys in Notional as a team, you constantly think, we love doing that, this is something we would be doing all day every day and never stopped it. I mean, like, there's got to be something that you guys are like, yeah, you're proud of the most, as what you achieved as a team, and
Oh man,
something that you guys,
it's funny. It's well, you want to know our proudest achievement? It
yeah, of
was
course.
okay. It was fixing Lunk. Um, and okay, now let's get a couple of items out of the way. Lunk, obviously, quite controversial, and it should be. One, is Lunk a shitcoin today? Oh yeah, probably. Two, they have lots of users, lots of market cap. Yeah, definitely. Three, when we fixed Lunk, did that solve like a really serious IBC problem, network wide? Actually, yeah. So there were like all of these stranded packets all over the place. Osmo, Juno, the hub. And it had to do with the fact that like they were connected to Luna Classic, but they no longer were. The packets couldn't even be timed out because of basically how IBC works. I won't go down a technical rabbit hole on it. And it was really interesting the feedback that we got from people on this. What we were told by third parties was like, well, that was like a one-line code fix. But from the governance angle, we had no expectation that you'd be able to pull it off. And actually, I look back at this, they're totally right. Okay, so the Lunk fix was truly, it was like one, it might have been 3 lines of code, really tiny, right? And really all it was like reverting changes that I think that Sunny had made because, what was happening during the Lunk death cycle, right? All of the newly like totally free Lunk shit coins, right? They were flowing onto osmosis and wiping out every pool. That sucked. And so, I mean, basically, it was either disable channels on the Osmo side or the Lunk side, or even sometimes I think we should have taken Osmo down, but Dave convinced me otherwise. Anyhow, so like the what one day, right, to write this code fix, about 3 weeks to audit it. So our team audited it. Our team tested it in every way that we could, and then tried to reason about like, okay, how can this break, right? But actually, I don't think that was the hard part either, because I mean, the IBC team themselves checked it, TFL checked it, the what the hell are they called? Terra Rebels checked it. Like, a lot of people checked it. A lot of skilled people. I don't really think Terra Rebels are so skilled, but like a lot of very skilled people from throughout Cosmos had a look at our little code change, and they were like, yes, this is the one line code change you need. And then we did testing on it. And then finally, though, like, you asked about proudest accomplishment. Okay, it was getting through governance proposals that actually, in hindsight, they could have been slightly misguided, in the sense that what we did is the first one was one that said, okay, we'll have a new canonical repository. Okay, and that pointed at the Terra Rebels repository. Unfortunately, like I said, Lunk, little like poo-poo coin type problems, right? And Terra Rebels rugged in some way, shape, or form. I don't exactly know how. And certainly, we never received any funding from Terra Rebels. It was osmosis grants that funded this work. And so we pointed the repository there. Interestingly, this, like, it might have been a first. It might have been the first time that a chain began to direct its own software development so specifically. And then after that, I mean, there was this other one that was basically, okay, well, we're going to reactivate IBC. So this software upgrade governance proposal was I mean, it was pretty different from others. And because Lunk had so many problems, it demanded creativity in solving them. One of them, so after Terra Rebels rugged, right? After IBC was back up, after Terra Rebels rugged, and during the brief period of time, maybe 1 month, that we thought that we were like gonna continue to work on it, the poo-poo got too strong, right? And we ended up not working on it. But like, during that period of time, we came up with another idea. It was like, each Git repository, it's an unnecessary dependency for the chain. We shouldn't have a canonical repository, because every Git commit hash is unique. So we could have hundreds of repositories and do software upgrades from the commit hash. And this actually, like, there actually isn't, to my knowledge, another Cosmos chain that works this way, where you can have your repository anywhere and your team can be anyone, and then the chain can vote that in. Now technically, because we okay, I have a new trope too. I didn't have this trope 6 months ago. My new trope is, so we were making this governance system, right? And along the way, while we were making the governance system, we kind of built a bug. It's called totalitarianism. And like, to be really specific about the nature of the totalitarianism bug in Cosmos, okay, so basically, one of the firm realizations that we've had as an organization about governance is, okay, that 2/3, right? So as soon as you exceed that veto threshold, right? Well, even if you go back as far back, something I'm not proud of, Juno Prop 16, right? And by the way, like, no, proud of it. Might have been the right choice though, but like, very on the fence. See my hand? See my hand? They're like questions there, okay? Definite questions. But it's the same bug. It's the same totalitarianism bug.
It is.
Because as soon as you pass that 33% veto threshold, and by the way, I mean, how the hell are you ever going to agree on anything if you like allow vetoes, say like at 20%?
Yeah.
You'd really only, be able to come to consensus on decisions in the least controversial cases. And I mean, I know you're very philosophically Cosmos. I know I am too. And frankly, that means we don't really want to take the least controversial decisions. We want to, have the full array of options open to us. Okay. So digital totalitarianism. Point being, actually, every Cosmos chain works this way, but like the user community, this is actually yet another realization. I shall thank Ganzi of Stake Cedo, okay, for this. Ganzi of Stake Cedo. This young fellow, he lectured me repeatedly on, okay, maybe he said this to me 50 times. There is no consensus except social consensus. And so like the really interesting thing is that on Lunk, we actually did change social consensus. And that community, even though it's, I mean, that is one hell of a weird blockchain community, right? They actually are prepared to accept software upgrades from wherever and expect the validators to review that, which is pretty cool. So that's our biggest accomplishment, is like changing the scope of social consensus on Lunk. That was cool.
I think that's the goal, in my opinion, of what anybody who comes into this space for values, at least, and understanding that consensus is only social, and we are social creatures, and even machines that we create will have social consensus because that's what they know about, that's what they understand. We have created them in our eyes, so they will also think the same. We were discussing the other day with somebody whether machines and robots how will they react to pets, and my argument was that they will love cats and dogs, no matter, even if they hate humans, they will love and pet cats and dogs and think they're feeling good because it's built into them. Of course, it's built into us. We're never gonna design a machine that well, it's gonna be, it's gonna be strange, right? So it's kind of, I think, an automatic thing that I can see that passing on to them.
Did you
Jacob,
just
sorry.
Tweet? Oh, if we're going down an AI tangent, I'll take like just a few seconds on AI here. I happen to see Jack's tweet on, blockchains are how we're going to control and restrain AI. I replied to him, "You're right. I think about this a lot, and we better not fuck it up." I think that's actually, so we look out on a longer time scale, right? And it's hard because this industry changes so damn much. But if we look out over years or whatever, I actually think that is the final purpose of a lot of the systems that we're building. And seriously, we better not fuck it up, because actually the AIs dude.
I can tell you, I'm gonna say something which I'm not going to say anything actually. I'm going to say, but without saying it, because I'm not supposed to.
Mhm.
Well, there is AI projects within Cosmos, and I know of one AI project which has attracted put it this way, it's gonna be interesting. I'm not gonna say anything beyond that, but there is
Wait.
more and more attention that AI projects are getting, and I think it's good. It's good.
Wait,
Really.
I know of two. You must be talking about the same one, or one of the two.
Of course, we're only talking about the same
one.
one.
The quality one, right? Quality ones.
Yeah.
Like there's one that does it at the chain layer, and then there's another with the abstraction. And by the way,
definitely not. I'm definitely not talking about Fetch AI. If that's the question, that's definitely not the project.
Actually, I like Fetch AI, but I just don't really see a lot of AI. Right?
Yeah, it's a bit. The project itself is cool, but it's like there isn't much difference.
They didn't build a global bare metal validator set and require them all to have GPUs. Just for example, I don't know, weird, right?
Yes. But yeah, well, I mean, this is, by the way, an edge validation is something I kind of respect you guys a lot for, and I think a lot of people out there, and I don't mean to sound offensive, but
Yeah,
I think as not just as a validator, but as um, I think people underestimate the importance of what the bare metal validation of what it will change in 5 years to come or even less. I mean, hopefully it will not be as quick, but I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after the next or during the next bull market where companies are going to go start crazy and shutting down probably validators just without any notices, whether it's AWS, Herzner, and all the other shit.
yeah.
And
Well, I mean, I feel like we already saw that a little bit, and yeah. So I mean, that's certainly another thing. The
what's your
Notional is.
advice? What's your advice to validate? Your guys are pioneers in that,
What
in
do
my
you want to
opinion.
know?
So what's
You want
what's
me to
what's
get
your
all deep
advice?
in it?
No, I want you to give advice. Like I mean, there are validators out there. There are people who starting out. There are
Yeah.
small validators like ours. There are medium validators. There are big validators. There are different sets. But I think all of them should hear this from you because honestly, I think you guys have done a tremendous job on it. I've seen some crazy videos with, and it's cool,
Dude,
right? And
it
give
is
them an
cool as hell.
advice.
Okay,
Huh?
so props to Long. Let's start there. Okay, so Long is the person running the majority of our validators these days, and huge props to him. And since you asked how, right? I'm gonna take really a little bit of time on this, and I'll drill straight way the hell into it. What you need from a hardware perspective, okay, is it's like $1,000 computer. Now, unless of course you're validating cyber, you don't necessarily need like an NVIDIA, green team GPU, right? Um, but there are a few hard requirements that can help you get around like really common stumbling blocks, and those are just the disks. So don't look at server grade equipment, if you ask me. If you want to be validating from the edge, the main thing is getting as much bandwidth from your M2 PCIe 4.0, one of those stick hard drives, right? Uh, Between that and your CPU. Oh, and by the way, there are now PCIe 5.0 disks shipping. You can try it. They have freaky large heat sinks. We haven't tried it yet, mainly due to that. No, sorry. They have heat sinks and they have fans. And moving parts actually scare us from like a physical systems perspective. So we're like, hard drives with fans? I don't know. I don't know. Right. But so these, where should I put this? Okay, your disk is the most important part. You can get like an AMD quad to, as much as 16 core desktop CPU. By the way, do not bother with like a Threadripper or an Epic. The desktop ones are fine. Same thing with Intel. With Intel, we usually use with their 13 series. It's like there's this one quite cheap 14 core Intel CPU that you can buy. Get one of those. Slap. It's about 32 gigabytes of RAM per node into it. So like you can and probably should, especially if you're doing this from home, run multiple validators on a single machine. And actually, in our case, what I should say is that like we do this sort of on a case by case basis. So more demanding nodes will have their own machine. Osmo has its own machine. Juno has its own machine. Evmos has its own machine. Chains that are used less, they don't have the same CPU and network requirements, and we double or triple or quad them up, right? And basically, though, as long as you have even a kind of shitty internet connection, like 10 megabits, both directions, reliable, you're good. It'll be fine. And now there will be plenty of people who will tell you not to do this. And quite frankly, they do have their reasons. What I mean by this is that when you validate from your home or office, it is more work. You're going to miss more blocks. If you went and looked at Notional's Evmos validator, for example, on Evmos we have, I don't know, like 95 to 99% block, like we'll miss 1 out of 100 to 5 out of 100 blocks. And
almost everybody misses blocks. I think it's very rare to see 100% constantly on the same validator on Evmos.
Oh, we did it.
Very rare.
We used to do it.
We did before. Now we did also for a while, and now we changed. We had to change machines because we went to a different bare metal machine, the main machine, and we changed the whole setup.
Where are you now?
Well, it's a mix of cloud and bare metal right now, and it was mostly cloud before, and so this time it started to. Right now we cannot get to 100. It's I think on 97, 98, between 96 and 97 to 98.
Well, that's really good, though. Actually,
we don't understand yet why.
This is something I probably knew this 6 months ago, but I don't think I was ready to say it. So. Get ready, people. I'm going to give credit to somebody. So there's this particularly salty individual named Mircha. Okay, he runs the infrastructure at Informal Systems, and he was the only one who, early in my validating career, was like, Jacob, shut the hell up about missed blocks. They don't matter unless you're missing some ludicrous number of them. I'm like, Mircha, come the hell on now. Like, you got to catch like every single block. You got to do it 100%, like you're looking to miss like 0 blocks a month. Mircha was right and I was wrong. And I want to give him credit for that. Like 100%. He deserves it.
Want to say like on this carry on the thought. I'm just gonna do a second of advertisement, guys. If you want to find out about Mircha, cool guy, we have an episode with him on Citizen Cosmos. So after you listen to free time, listen to the Jake.
Was he salty at all? Was he salty on your top?
He was absolutely like first of all, he was a big fan. So for him he was very shaky because he was like, oh my god, I'm such a fan, and I was like really excited as well to have him on. It was a while ago, but no, he was fantastic. He was really a lot. He's what he is. He's what he is.
Exactly. And
I love it.
Actually, so like, yeah, I mean, I've really come to appreciate a lot of folks who I previously disagreed with. Now, you wanted to do like a Notional episode. Now we've gone very freaking meta,
true,
right?
True.
Now, so it's a 4 to 16 core CPU, usually 128 gigs of RAM, 1 or more PCIe 4.0 or 5.0 M2 SSD disks. By the way, no 3.0. No. Also, no server CPUs. The reason why no server CPUs is it's not obvious, so I'm going to spell it out. You don't use a server CPU because you can't replace it. If your CPU fails, you might have to like mail order that thing. And I mean, you're definitely taking like a different downtime risk profile when you're validating from home. Keep the machine cheap. Keep the machine built with parts that have been built like in very high volume. Millions. ASRock motherboards, all about it. They're great. They're cheap as hell, and they are high quality. How do you know they're high quality? Because they build millions of them in batches, and that's actually what allows a hardware product to mature. Is just volume. The more you build of them, the better. Notional uses Samsung hard drives. We endorse them, but we don't get paid by Samsung. but we totally do use Samsung hard drives, and hell, I actually think about it, we probably have $20,000 Samsung hard drives at the office. It's insane. And they should pay, because I'm promoting them, right? So they should like subsidize them, I think. Anyhow, so Samsung hard drives. The case, so we've been building our systems for physical size. We try to make them as small as possible and as energy efficient as possible. So we actually tend to use ITX motherboards. And those have cases that are like toaster size, right? And the thing is that they have everything you need. You're not putting a spinning hard drive in there. You don't need a bazillion ports. In fact, what I would tell listeners who want to learn how to validate from the edge, do not build a server. A reason is once you get into building servers, okay, you are also into maintaining servers, and that's that's really not pleasant. People will ask, so should I use ECC RAM? The answer is nope. Use like really commodity desktop RAM. When I design machines on newegg.com, which is like, again, volume is the trick, right? So that's the most popular American e-commerce site for buying computer hardware. I actually go with like whatever is the best seller at the moment for desktop RAM. And what other? Just trying to think of like other weirdnesses. Go cheap, go high volume. Also, another thing is that really for your network, this probably surprises some people, you don't need much. If you have, say, like a fiber line, and then one of those little USB 4G thingies that you can plug in and get online, should anything happen to your fiber line, you're good. And if your power is reliable, now this is a judgment call, okay? I have a history in Bitcoin mining. I am super aware that any generator can literally kill you. And it can kill you in many ways too. So if it turns on and it floods your building with carbon monoxide, well, you could be dead. If it turns on and it burns down your building, well, you could be dead. If for whatever reason its fuel source catches fire, well, you could be dead. If you are maintaining it and like you're in that one weird place where your wired power and the generator come together, you could be dead. I keep repeating this because, in the infrastructure business, it's rare, but not unheard of for people to actually have been dead, mainly from gas generators. And so, my recommendation on backup power is UPSs. If you're doing a gas generator, I'll give you an example. The building I'm currently in, an apartment building, downstairs is a big ass diesel generator. Somebody else maintains it. It's supposed to kick on if the power fails. We don't know, right? But like we think it will. And it's, I'm fairly high up off the ground. One would hope it would, because it would take a long ass time to get downstairs. There was a problem, right? So the idea is that the building I currently live in, it has a large diesel generator that can supply power for the whole building should the grid go out. That's your best bet. Now, if you're in, a more developed country, probably a UPS is fine. and really, actually, Vietnam is, a more developed country if you're in the larger cities, right? And we are. However, there are a growing number of AAA blockchain teams who literally ask me, "Hey, Jacob, where the hell are the validators in South America and Africa?" And so, if anybody happens to watch this, okay, not NACION, Nation Crypto is in South America. And I recently met a validator, and I don't remember the name of their team. Okay, they're based in West Africa, but servers are in Europe. I assume that at some point, that there will be bare metal validators in places that have less reliable grids. And I also want to say that, like, I really want to meet you. I want to help you. We actually don't have points of presence on those continents, except for Notional Crypto, and like, hell yeah, dudes. And it's important because we do want to span the world. Like, that's our actual goal with this stuff. We want to cover the whole damn planet. And so, if you happen to be watching this video, this ridiculous person with this ridiculous beard and the other ridiculous person with the ridiculous foam on the wall, and you're anywhere on the continent of Africa, please note, we actually would like to talk to you. We would like to help you set up a validator. And by the way, I have a friend in Ghana, and according to him, only way would be a gas generator. Therefore, my final note on electrical supply: if you're using a gas generator, please, for the love of God, know what you're doing. They can kill you.
Please don't die if you're using a gas generator, for the love of God. That's the fucking only thing to ask.
Exactly that.
Jacob, the main question I wanted to ask you, and in my opinion, this should what everybody should be asking you, actually. If they are, even if they don't hold Atom, even if they're just in a Cosmos ecosystem, considering the position of even philosophically and socially of Cosmos Hub, they should be asking you this question. So Prop 104, I voted yes, of course. We voted yes, sorry. I was also the one in the forum to tell you, I think one of the first people to say, why on earth aren't you doing a proposal before you guys even did the proposal? But regardless of all of that,
it made sense.
But wait. Wait.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes,
let me take my Surge hat off and put my Cosmos Cosmos hat on. So Prop 104, technically that's 7% of all the taxpayers' money. So I want to hear what that's a lot of money. People don't think about that, but they imagine, like, some institution or some business comes and takes 7%. Well, I mean, we know exactly who those people are, but in the real world, right? But I think, let's hear about the plans. Let's hear about what is the man. That's a lot, let's talk about.
Let me walk through the.
And congratulations, by the way, on getting a yes.
Thank you so much, dude. Thank you. The first proposal we made, which we eventually abandoned, was for about the same amount of atoms, but over the course of a year. And that was going to actually focus us on, well, there would be less focus, quite frankly. We were going to be on the SDK, we were going to be on IBC, we were going to be feeding that into the hub. And frankly, like that is sort of the maintenance scope for the Cosmos Hub. So the Cosmos Hub's big upstreams, right, are the Cosmos SDK, IBC, and now Comet BFT. And those are the major upstream repositories for Cosmos Hub / Gaia. And actually, we're still going to be doing that, and by the way, I'm going to give praise where it's due. While I was reporting sort of like a series of issues and making also some software upgrade recommendations to Jihan from Informal, who you should interview, number one. And number two, I think has done like a superhuman job of clearing the hub of technical debt. There was a lot. There really was a lot. And by the way, it's not only him. It's not even only Informal, but like for the first time in a bit, I'm really optimistic about the future of the hub. I wanted to get that out of the way and just like say thanks, because basically he helped us to redesign our governance proposal. And what that entailed was figuring what do we really offer the hub. Well, tell you one thing, may surprise you a little bit, but be very direct about it. I've taught the past two hub teams about the hub, and my contributions began, it might be 4 hub teams ago. So when I first started to make just small documentation related pull requests to the hub, that was just before, oh dear, I do forget his name, but he's Armenian like myself. Okay, so that was hub lead before Billy Rennekamp and before Jihan Trembeck. Okay. And before that, it was like a pre-GOR team. The great organizational restructuring of 2020, right? And so, the hub team was sort of like Cosmos participants from all over, with probably, I'll name a couple of names. So Alessio Treglia, Jack Zampolin, Zaki Manian, all doing like, very significant work. And they all did very significant work on the SDK too. Oh, and by the way, where is Rigel? I can't pronounce his
It's a good
name,
question.
but where is Rigel?
It's a good question.
I know. I want to find Rigel. Anyway, just throwing that out there real quick, because he's one of the most prolific coders of all time on the SDK. And of course, that being an important hub upstream. So check it out. We are going to assist the hub team with, all right, what Jihan identified with our team in particular is that we have like a high level of awareness with what's going on. And by the way, this is not milestones based. This is like, basically, he, and by the way, by extension, the community is, yes, trusting. And by the way, don't trust us, check our work. But, basically is expressing faith in our ability to look out over the whole Cosmos ecosystem and make recommendations based on that. And the next piece here is, essentially keeping the hub up to date. The next piece has to do with interchain security. So supporting other validators, supporting consumer chains. I've had many calls with both current consumer chains and future consumer chains. This was actually before Prop 104. And so, Jihan helped us to put that together. Oh, and then there's archaeology. We're going to do archaeology, blockchain archaeology. So currently we're on Cosmos Hub version 4. And how should I put this? There is not one Cosmos Hub version 4. There's Cosmos Hub version 4 begins with Gaia 4.2.0, then upgrades to V5, then V6, then V7, then V8, and very shortly V9. And okay, 8 is super, super clean. I love 8. It's a beautiful release. In fact, I don't actually know if we would have pursued 104 if 8 didn't shape up so gorgeous, right? Because for a long time, the hub had maintenance issues. I think that they kind of came from, we were sort of treating the hub like the whole ecosystem's testnet for the SDK. And then we had this vexing problem, this very difficult problem, where if the hub didn't use a version of the Cosmos SDK, other chains would not trust it. Problem is, they were right. I'll give you an example. The most recent example of this is SDK 46, which we retracted the first 6 versions of that, right? So like they were pulled back, and if you try to use them, your Go compiler will actually throw you a warning. Be like, yo, no, bad, don't, right? And I mean, there's good reason for this, because the first 6 versions of SDK 46 shipped with various really pretty serious bugs. All right, now to drill down into what this means for the hub, and like in the next, say, quarter or so, well, we're going to work on porting interchain security to SDK 47, work on getting IBC 7 on the hub, and then the other piece is, and again, I just named like 2 concrete miles. Oh, the archaeology, excuse me, the archaeology. So we're going to go back through all of the old hub versions, and we're going to equip them with the latest database and IAVL libraries, with the goal, if you go to the Gaia repository, you type in speed races, well, you shall see me. And I wrote about this a couple of years ago when I noticed how long it took to sync the Cosmos Hub from Genesis. And frankly, it's only gotten worse since. However, one difference. I've been working with Osmosis for, it's embarrassingly long. Okay, I've been working on a particular release of Osmosis version 3 and Osmosis version 4 for a year. And recently I actually got it all to work. And I just have to sort of like summarize it and make like a finalized pull request. Here's the thing. How did I get it to work? I did archaeology work on the hub. Maybe you're wondering, what the hell does this have to do with Osmosis? Well, you see, back in the day, everything targeted the hub. In order to make my code changes work for Osmosis, I actually had to think like the hub. I had to go through and look at what versions of different libraries the hub was using, and then literally upgrade the hub, and then account for, okay, what does Osmosis do differently, and then implement that. It was, I mean, it took a year, so it was hard. And, but there's a big benefit here, okay? Why do we even bother to use a blockchain? Because they're giant pains in the ass, right? Like, we could just use any database. We don't need to talk about governance. We don't need to worry about app hash errors, which is, for the audience to understand, app hash error is when groups of nodes on the network disagree with one another about the state of a block. And this happens if you're a validator. Like, you'll see it. And it sucks. It's very challenging to deal with. And really, when you're working on a blockchain as opposed to a database, so a database might have one copy or many replicated copies, but like, there's only ever going to be one state. Now, a blockchain, there must be one state also, but you're maintaining that state across, in the hub's case, it's 175 machines. if it's 1 byte off, screw you. It'll explode a bit. And so that's the archaeology piece is actually like the first major task. We're going to go through starting from version 4.2.0. That's fitting. We'll probably release like a 4.2.1 or a 4.3.0. And this is a version of the Cosmos Hub that's probably like 3 years old. We're not adding any features. We're going to make it sync way the hell faster, because why do we use a blockchain? There's such pains in the asses. Well, you see, we can have verifiable data that we can trust. And if we can't sync from the very start of the chain, and in the case of Cosmos Hub 4, that's the Genesis file for Cosmos Hub 4, to the very tip, we don't have assurances about the state of the chain. Now, we can do this today. However, 2 weeks, like 2 human weeks,
really good.
14 days, good luck. Oh, also, you need to change your binary along the way. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 6. You have to use 6 different binaries to get to the tip of the chain. Inevitably, you end up screwing something up. And the worst part is, okay, imagine you screw something up on the 12th day. This happened to me. This is real. Well, guess what? Screw you. Back to block 1. And that adds another 12 days to it. So I'm thinking that this like archaeology task can probably take that down to 5 days. That's awesome. And that'll be, something that I believe completes this quarter. And so that's sort of the scope for like the next little period of time. Also, why is it 3 years? We don't necessarily know what we will do for the hub in the future. Very comfortable working with the current hub team. They can ask us to do literally anything, and we'll chase it down.
That's, I think, good thing in development as well, not to try and plan for 3 years, because it doesn't make sense. A lot of people get lost because things change.
A scope that lasted 3 years.
Of course. Let me make a quick comment here. There is a guy who is asking in the audience. There was a question. This is not so much. The next one is going to be for you. This is a general one, but then there's one for you that I want to ask. I'm just going to make a comment on the first one, and it does also include, I think, Notional. The question is here whether or not there are teams in Cosmos trying to help new investors coming into the ecosystems from getting rug pulled or scams. And then there is like a few more comments on here. And I said, like in the comments, I don't know anyone that is concentrated on that. But what I want to comment quickly without going too deep into it is that if you stick to education, stick to teams that you see are reputationable, and how do you check that? You see teams that are been there for years. You can see that they validate, you can see that they contribute, you can see their code contributions, you can see their validation contributions, their social contributions. And if you follow those teams, those teams that put their money where their mouth is, they don't want to get rugged by themselves. So I'm not saying it's 100% gonna work, but if you follow people like Notional, follow ourselves, follow other teams out there like Strangelove, like Informal, and a lot more that and maybe there's nobody specific that specifies on that, but I think that's the way to kind of help yourself. Jacob, there's a question here for you though.
I want to answer the gentleman in the audience's question.
Please.
Gentleman in the audience, or gentle lady, I don't know. Check this out. There is actually one person who, to my knowledge, is better than anybody else at detecting scam or rug or just suspicious activity. You can give him a follow on Twitter, Rarma, Rarma. He's very good and thorough, and it's unlikely that you'll ever hear like false information out of Rarma. So yeah, there's an endorsement for Rarma for sure.
Nice.
Oh,
So
by the
there
way,
is
not a
actually,
validator. He's like a guy.
so there is actually someone to follow. So there we go. Here is a question for you. So this is a quick one because I want to go from that one to a bigger one, which I think we can like sort of resume with, but it's going to be I think what yeah. Anyways, let's ask this one first. So this is relating Prop 8 on Stride. I'm gonna read the whole thing as it is, and then let's make it out together. Can you please ask him about how Prop 8 on Stride might be structured? Will it be similar to claiming multiple denominations on Terra? Have options to swap all into one coin type? Any rough ETA? 1 month, 3 months, etc.
So Stride doesn't have a plan to have swaps, as far as I know. Now, also, we wrote Prop 8, and basically, look, guys, Stride kind of baller. I'll tell you why. Prop 8, what it really did is strip the team of rewards, and they asked our team to build it. And so what I mean is that, like, in the current state of Stride, I don't know what the exact reward is for the Stride team, but they like get something from your staked assets, or I forget. Please excuse me. I don't know the precise flow, but here's the deal. They wanted to follow governance. I was actually like mildly surprised and super refreshed. They were like, "Yeah, can you tackle it?" And yeah, we have a small team on Stride, and as far as I know, the Prop 8 implementation is now complete. Now, here's another thing. Why do I not know every detail on Stride at this time? Well, one of the reasons is our growth, but actually another one is that Stride is zooming. Please, I suppose if you want to take this as shilling, go for it. But please don't take it as financial advice. They are looking to be the first with IBC 7.1. Means they should be able to connect directly to Polkadot. They're also looking to become a hub consumer chain. And it's interesting because we've had the opportunity at Notional to do both code and design work with Quicksilver and Stride. And by the way, like, much love to both Quicksilver and Stride. Interestingly, Stride fit as a consumer chain for the hub. I would say that it's because of how Stride works. Stride, you move your coins to Stride and stake them elsewhere. Quicksilver's ideal vision is something different. I won't actually even get into that right now. But what I'll say is that Stride is likely to have more on it than the value of all the Stride. I don't know when, right? But that just seems likely to occur. And so, they made this decision to become a consumer chain, which will allow them to dodge this problem, because basically their TVL or whatever with LSD, by the way, and they called it LSD because it really does get confusing, right? I'm sure that must be why. Liquid staking.
On Ethereum, they're proposing to change it now to liquid staking.
Really?
LST, I think, something like that.
LST?
Yeah. It's on Twitter. It's not an AIP. It's a Twitter.
Really? I mean, we're cooler in Cosmos then.
They don't know what they're saying, man.
Okay.
No, ignore that.
We'll have more fractals and rainbows in Cosmos. For sure.
Exactly, right. And yeah. By the way, a second of advertisement again on what Jacob is saying. Quicksilver, Stride, P-Stake, Lido. We all have not just separate episodes with each one of them, but there is also a debate with all four of them present and discussing liquid staking, which you can watch
That's
on
cool.
our YouTube channel. And yeah, sorry, Jacob, but just a little
No, no.
advert
All I want
there.
to say is that's cool as hell. And
So, but Jacob,
mm,
Jacob,
yes, sir.
let
Yes,
me
sir.
let me let me let me let me let me like I think like the cherry for me on the icing of the cherry, and it's like the resume question, and it might seem that it's directed at you, but it's
Oh,
not,
you
and
can
I
ask
will.
anything you want, man.
No, because I think it's important. It's important because again, this is about Notional, and Notional, it does say on the Notional website that reputation is key. So this is why it's directed at Notional, and so I want to ask you that, and I want you to not to defend yourself by no means, please, or not to defend Notional. I want you to explain why Notional's let's say reputation is key slogan, not slogan, right? And it
Why,
is
why
kind
do we
of
believe that?
no, not just why you believe that, but that it's obvious why you guys believed it, right? But like let me go a bit more dramatic here, right? I'll try to be a bit more
All right.
dramatic. Um, why do you think like it attracts so much, like a lot of people especially see it like that as drama? And do you think that that's part of believing in reputation being the key and having the balls to say what you think is right when you think is right? Or do you think that that is, something, I don't know, that people envy, or maybe it's you guys, blowing things up, whatever. Like, and of course, again, I'm being devil's advocate and giving you, like, I want the whole
Yeah.
possible answers to be heard. And why is it like that in your opinion for Notional? Or and should it be like that? Should it be different? And yeah, I think like reputation is key, is a lot to do with it. I think having the balls to say what you want and when you want, when
Yeah.
you believe in it, is
Um,
important.
so, I mean, we, okay, every business in crypto uh, is going to be given the opportunity to make various compromises. And in fact, in crypto, want to assure anybody watching, you actually can get rich fast. Um, but I'm not aware of good, like, I mean, kind or ethical ways to get rich fast. Any in crypto or outside crypto, mind you. Now we're a business. We're absolutely, seeking profit, and we've rejected really quite a lot. And we have been the first to discuss issues really on a number of chains now. Um, and this has had very mixed results. We wrote a report on SIF chain. Actually, before things truly and fully went to shit, I mean, stuff was already kind of shit. Okay, I don't want to be like, oh, we were clairvoyant, we could really see the future, and we knew how shit things were going to get. But looking at the state of that chain, we felt it was weird. Okay, I'll get really specific about SIF, for example. So actually, SIF was kind of a self-own. There were a couple of like economic modeling mechanisms that essentially broke it. It was causing the price of SIF to be higher on SIF, and then the price of IBC and Ethereum assets to be lower relative to SIF on SIF. So if I'm an arbitrageur, right, I can purchase SIF, say like on Osmosis or on ETH, because there were markets for SIF on both. I think there were a couple of others as well, off of the chain, right? So I could get cheap SIF there, move it to SIF, and purchase atoms at a ludicrous discount, like 4 times cheaper than market. By the way, that wasn't only the case with atoms. Any liquid asset that was in demand, you could do that with. And probably we caught this about a week in, right? And we were looking at what was going on, like, not good. And we actually ended up getting on the phone with both SIF's CEO and CTO. SIF's CTO, who is in the process of joining Notional, actually, said, "Yo, like, this is a problem, and like, let's get on it." He and I actually like wrote out that plan. Okay, so like how to fix SIF. It's the one with the big green letters. I don't know if you've ever seen it. 6-page long PDF, giant green letters. Basically says, well, if we get rid of all of these monetary policies, they called them monetary policies. You get rid of all of them, you should fix the bugs. Now, we didn't actually know this for certain, but John felt that was the case. I felt that was the case. And Jazier, he felt they were very necessary. And that was when, by the way, and this was independent of John, that was when we decided, hey, like, we should probably step back here. But before we did that, we released publicly, our findings. It's like, actually, everything here works fine, but that's sort of the problem. The monetary policies are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And that's causing this, really very bad ARB situation. So, we left. We were, I think, the first validator to be like, guys, peace. And when we did that, we cited the monetary policies. Like, no, this won't ever work for our team. And we told people why. Interestingly, like, the community was into this. They were happy to get clear feedback. And, I really don't think that the SIF community was treated super well, right? So that was one example. Another example, pretty controversial, but actually our teams have a super good relationship now, is Jackal. Jackal had a crazy severe bug. And like basically there was a web server mounted to the folder where your validator keeps the block signing key, and it could be exfiltrated, and that's very bad, right? Like, actually, very bad might be kind of too light. Now, I learned tons from Jackal. That doesn't actually mean I did everything right. Because I made a lot of noise on Twitter, and I basically, got the chain shut down, which, by the way, that was correct. Method may not have been correct, because the validator set was not, basically, like, nobody was going to shut down until the team stepped in. And I'll share with the audience, my exact reasoning for doing what we did and why in the future it would still be a judgment call. I don't know what I would do. We looked at the code, we looked at the situation, and we decided we didn't want to operate. And so what that means is that, we're actually placing our delegators in harm's way, because if we are down, everybody else is up, in comes the knife for the slashy, right? And of course, like, our delegators, when it comes to validation, those are our customers. And, we want to make sure we take really good care of them. So I made the decision to tell people exactly. In fact, I'll tell you one other thing. I didn't tell people exactly why we went down because the problem was so damn severe, and there were other problems that I told the public about the less severe, less exploitable problems. And then when the chain team showed back up, I told them about, everything. Now, I should say, this is very challenging work. Um, why? Well, you're making highly consequential decisions, and you're doing it on behalf of others. You're doing it under pressure. People may not agree with you. And I'll tell you another thing. They might be right. They could be correct. Because, in a triage situation where things are moving quickly, the chain is live, you're not 100% sure. You want to be as damn close to 100% sure as possible before you sound any alarm, but you're not 100% sure. I knew that there was a web server. I knew it was mounted to that folder. I didn't know that exfiltration was necessarily possible. Now, if an attacker could exfiltrate the block signing keys to 66% of stake weight, they could arbitrarily do anything with the chain, print an unlimited amount of Jackal, and there's just all kinds of crazy shit, right? So that's why I made that decision in that particular case. And now to come back to you, right? You're like, so why is there that drama? Well, I do have to blame myself to some extent, right? Like, no, check it out. I'm a person who speaks their mind, okay? And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, right? But as Notional's CEO, in general, if I see an issue, I will tend toward speaking about it, right? Instead of being silent. And I think that the reasoning for that is like we are very insistent on engineering rigor. And I suppose that a lot of that comes from, give credit where it's due. It comes from Jay. He's an asshole. But I mean this in a good way right now, okay? What I mean is that he is really rigorous on software. And I mean, if you're doing a threat model with him, it's freaking intense. He'll get into edge cases that I don't think normal people would imagine. And I did that a bunch with him. And, doing that over and over, you learn some stuff. And, I don't know. Credit where it's due. Credit where it's due. Yep.
The mute button. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that regardless of what it attracts, like people should, see beyond it and look at not at the reasons it arises, or not at the not the result, because it arises as a result of people, of course, trying to defend something. But I think if there is something that is truthful and verifiable involved in it, people should really look at that and try to understand that it's being done not for the sake of creating hype out of it or creating drama out of it, but
So like this is where the challenge multiplies. Okay. It's not actually that many people who can do this. At Notional, we have 4 or 5 that can like really, run through something, tear it down, check it. But that makes us, in terms of, let's say Cosmos analysis skill, a very blessed and lucky organization. And by the way, I frequently feel that way.
Yeah.
Watching our team grow and learn it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, outside of our team, another like 15, 20, and then there's a separate area of security that, as opposed to applying just to Cosmos, applies everywhere. And yeah, lots of people can check for that, right? But I guess I'm speaking more about only the Cosmos stuff. And then finally, and there is another piece though, which doesn't have to do with like software security. It's more economics. We, you know, I talked to you about the whole truck thing, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm on my second life. Okay, so I don't want to get anywhere by harming anybody. Very grateful, and so if we see, with SIF, it essentially was a dark economic pattern. It wasn't really bugs. Actually, I'll say pretty strongly, I think the software worked perfectly as it was designed. However, like that would harm people, and
Yeah.
so finally, I guess to get to the point, that becomes quite contentious, and maybe what I'd say to the audience, right, is to the best of your ability, don't take my word for it. Check.
Yeah.
And
Check
and
and verify.
Yep, exactly.
Jacob, man, I don't know. I think that people, my honest opinion, maybe a bit biased. I still think people underestimate a lot of what certain people commit in terms of time. And of course, it's selfish in terms of that. I love your sentence on. I agree with you totally on here. All validators are centralized, selfish entities, and of course we are, right. We do this because we're. But end of the day, out of all, it doesn't mean that all people who run the marathon are wanting to cheat if one of them wants to cheat, right? Or it doesn't mean that if an athlete is cheating and taking steroids, all athletes and cheating and taking steroids, but all of them are there to win end of the day. And that's my analogy here, that there are bad actors and there are good actors, and I just want people to ignore that. Follow what's verifiable, like Jacob says. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, totally. Like, to everybody watching, one of the reasons open source is so important is that even if you don't code, you can probably verify most of a DeFi app, because most of a DeFi app lives in a few fairly simple functions. And if you're anywhere from, if you're beyond casual, right, do read the code, check it out, and ask questions, because interestingly, this is where we get into, you have a bunch of selfish entities, which by the way, as humans, like, we're just built that way. We do compete with each other. But when you ask questions, when you poke holes in problems, you're actually helping the spirit of Cosmos. This was never meant to be. I'm getting highly opinionated now, so I'm not actually, one of the founders or whatever. This wasn't meant to be something that you passively accept. Even if we go all the way back, like before there was a Cosmos SDK, user experience and the ability to pick up and read and understand the code, even if you're not a programmer, that was always a very high priority with Tendermint. And I would encourage anybody to check through the code. And if you have questions, I would also say that Twitter is probably the best place, because the SDK team is on Twitter. Larry is on Twitter. Guys, Larry's a better programmer than me. Larry's one of our absolute finest. Larry 0x, just on Twitter.
Horcrux.
And there are all these brilliant minds all over Cosmos Twitter, and you can absolutely ask questions and get answers. And frankly, that's how I learned a lot of the stuff that I know today.
Yeah, I think that's the goal of life, really, to ask questions, right, guys? If you want to reach Notional, I hope that this helps to get a better understanding of what the guys at Notional do. But reach them on their Twitter, Notional DAO. I'm sure that if you cannot find it, you will find it in the. Other than that, I hope it was good, Jacob. Thank you.
I hope it was good for you as well. I hope it was good for the audience.
Yes.
And dude, thank you also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you run away, let me just end the stream, and I'll say goodbye to you properly. So again, thank you everybody for watching this. Follow Notional, guys. Delegate to Notional, in my personal opinion. Don't say this very often.
Delegate to Cosmic as well. No, you're not. Wait. Hang on. You're Citizen Cosmos.
Oh my god.
There we go.
Oh my god.
Not Cosmic.
No.
Dude, there's so many names. We got to get you a one-word name. We'll make you like Adam Robot. Look at your logo. Adam Robot.
There is a new one coming out soon. There's a new one coming out soon.
See. Okay.
Okay, let me just end the stream, Jacob.
Look like a citizen? What's it gonna look like?
Guys, again, thanks.
All right, Jacob. Before I embarrass myself too much.
No, we can embarrass ourselves all we want.